Hi Ron, Chris here. So the Mi 10T Pro, which I recently just reviewed in the channel, up against the Mi 10 Ultra. So which one is going to be better here? I'm going to get to the bottom of this in this camera comparison, compare them both in detail, low light stills, low light video. You look at the front facing cameras here, 1080p maximum on both of them, 20 megapixels both of them right here, and they both have electronic image stabilization. It looks like there might be a slightly closer crop on the Mi 10 Ultra, but really not by too much. And you can see the stabilization is reasonably good. So if I just jog ahead lightly here, you can see it's removing most of those shakes and tremors, but sadly no 4K 30 option here. So I'm swapping over the audio sources as well. Let's take a look at our rear cameras to see the difference between both of these models. So with our rear cameras, there is a difference in the main sensors. We've got the 108 megapixel Samsung HMX, which is in the Mi 10T Pro, and the Mi 10 Ultra has a custom OmniVision 48 megapixel sensor. And they both have optical image stabilization and electronic. As I walk ahead, you can see both quite steady. Now, laser assist, face detection autofocus on the Mi 10 Ultra versus just the face detection autofocus on the Mi 10T Pro. But both of them seem to be pretty good with the focus. And this, by the way, is 4K 60 frames per second I'm shooting in, which they both support on the main sensor. And they also support 8K video. So now a short jog ahead. Which one has the best image stabilization? Looks to me like it is definitely the Mi 10 Ultra here. Seems to be a lot steadier. Ultra-wide video now, so there is a big difference in the field of view between both of these lenses. We get a lot more in the Mi 10 Ultra shot versus the T10 Pro. It is also 13 megapixels on the T10 Pro versus the 10 Ultra's 20. Now they are both using electronic image stabilization, so the footage is quite smooth as I jog down these stairs here. And what about audio quality? To my ears, they are very similar, possibly using the same exact hardware. So I'm going to pan around right now and we'll have a look and see which one here has the most panning judder. I'm going to take it as smooth as possible. And I can see both of them are doing it a little bit of judder from that electronic image stabilization. Now 4K 30 frames per second. It's interesting to note that Xiaomi uses the exact same bitrate for 4K 30 and 4K 60, which doesn't make sense at all. You've got double the information, double the frame rate at 60 frames per second 4K, but they use the same bitrate as 30. So that's one thing that Xiaomi really does need to correct. So again, good image stabilization, a little bit of panning judder coming through as I've shown you before. This is now 8K, so 8K is being down sampled to 4K because of my video. That's what I export in. And you can see there is a difference in quality here, that it's actually a proper native 8K on the Mi 10 Ultra, whereas the 10T Pro is actually upscaling from 6K to 8K. And it's 30 frames per second. And I'll pan around slightly. You can see it looks a little bit choppier because of the difference in the frame rate on the Mi 10 Ultra. So they both use optical image stabilization right now, no electronic with 8K. Jogging again. Which one has the best stability here? Let me know in the comments. This is now the Super Steady mode on both of them. So I'm using Super Steady Pro on the Mi 10 Ultra, and just the standard Super Steady is all I have on the 10T Pro. And you can see both of them very steady. Now this is 1080p 60 frames per second. And there is a difference I can already see in the field of view right here. And you seem to have slightly better quality, I think, maybe on the Mi 10 Ultra. Now what I'm going to do is run ahead as fast as I can, so I sprint. And let me know in the comments which one do you think was the steadiest there and offers the best quality. And our front facing camera, so which one here do you like the best with the front facing camera low light? I can see some exposure changes by the looks of it coming through on the Mi 10 Ultra. I don't know, it's quite hard to tell here, very close. the same 20 megapixel sensor on both of them, so it's really down to software optimization with this one. Low light video now, so we have difficult conditions. It looks so much brighter on the screens than it really is here, and the focus seems to be working okay on both of them. So which one here looks the sharpest to me? I think it's definitely the Mi 10 Ultra. Looks a little bit sharper in that video quality there, and the stabilization on both. Which one do you think is the best? So panning around really slow now. Which one is capturing? Now this is very difficult right here. Now this sign, it should actually be in blue, and it looks like it's coming out purple on the 10T Pro, so that doesn't quite have the colors and the white balance correct there. Orange street lights as well. Well, yellow street lights. Short jog ahead, testing that stability again. And finally for low light, ultra wide video. So to me it looks definitely sharper, the image on the Mi 10 Ultra with its 20 megapixel ultra wide camera, wider lens. Quite a bit of noise in the sky though with the Mi 10 Ultra. Alright, so on to my findings here. With the front-facing video, so this is our vlog quality, unfortunately just 1080p on both of them, and it's not amazing quality because it's lacking in sharpness. If it was 4K, it would be better. Now, it is very, very close here. They are basically the same exact sensor, slightly different color saturation. It tend to be a little bit oversaturated or more saturated on the Mi 10 Ultra. I preferred the 10T Pro's look, just because if you looked at the sky, for example, it was a little bit better. My shirt looked more natural, not as bright red as it was with the Ultra. It's definitely boosting those colors. It's down to personal preference, that one. Now, the rare 4K 60 and 4K 30, I preferred the Mi 10T Pro's video. Slightly less contrast and close to life with the colors. But there was an issue with the stabilization. 4K 60 on the Mi 10T Pro doesn't seem to have any electronic image stabilization, only optical, so it shook around all over the place. Now, the Mi 10 Ultra, its video was more saturated and it was sharper. So I prefer the colors on the Mi 10T Pro, but overall, the winner for the video for me was the Mi 10 Ultra. That stabilization is so good on that OmniVision sensor. It is really, really good. Now, with the electronic image stabilization in ultra wide, I saw more issues on the Mi 10 Ultra. The Mi 10 Ultra with the ultra-wide video sample tend to have a bit of a juddering going on and some problems there. Now, 8K video, there was a big difference here because there was a difference in the frame rate. So 8K 24 frames per second on the Mi 10 Ultra versus the 8K 30 on the Mi 10T Pro. but the Mi 10T Pro is actually upscaling 6K to 8K, and I have confirmed this before with people in the past on XDA forums with some developers. I looked into this when I first got the Mi 10T and the Mi 10T Pro. Sorry, the Mi 10 Pro and the Mi 10T. Ultra steady modes on both of them. Okay, I like the ultra steady mode better on the Mi 10 Ultra, but again, there was more of that judder coming through, so it was kind of a draw there, I think. The Mi 10T Pro just seemed to be smoother the footage, even though it lacked a lot of detail, and the contrast it wasn't good. I didn't like it at all. Audio and videos, very, very close, very similar, perhaps exactly the same hardware for microphones that they are using here, but a slightly different gain or filter on the Mi 10 Ultra, just ever so slightly. That's the one I think I preferred there. And onto our stills now. So still photography, daylight photos, very, very close. Some of them, as you saw there, had a little bit of a cool tint to them at times. That was because the sun was setting in some of those shots there, so it looked a little bit bluish in tint. Overall, I preferred the Mi 10 Ultra stills and its focus. It tended to get a little bit more in focus in the shot, where the larger sensor, the 108 megapixels, tend to have like a bit of a DSLR kind of larger sensor look to it, with the focus more just in the middle of the band. But it's down to personal preference there. Portraits. Okay, so portrait shots, I think there was a big difference here. The selfies, slightly sharper on the Mi 10T Pro, so I preferred those ones. And then the rear camera portraits, big, huge difference here. The Mi 10 Ultra for portraits is kind of poor. It's quite poor, actually. It wants to use the 5x zoom camera, and it just doesn't seem to like the details indoors in that sample I gave you there. Zoom cameras. So no contest at all looking at this boat. I zoomed in to 5x on the Mi 10T Pro, and then 5x optical, of course, on the Mi 10 Ultra. Completely destroyed it there in terms of sharpness and details and everything. So that's the zoom camera champion there, of course. Low light stills, Mi 10 Ultra. Best details, more details in the shadows, sharper image overall. Colors were actually very good at night, much better than daytime. They got the white balance quite correct there. That blue sign I showed you of the hotel, it is blue. It's not meant to be purple. So the Mi 10T Pro didn't really capture the colors so well there. But some of those photos were very, very close, I think, for the price, of course, of the Mi 10T Pro. It did an excellent job, really good. And I think that image stabilization that we have, the optical image stabilization on that 48 megapixel, really helped out with the low light performance on the Mi 10 Ultra. It is an absolute low light beast, that phone. So thank you so much for watching. Do you agree with my findings here? Let me know in the comments which one you thought was the best and what conditions there. Up against, of course, the Mi 10T Pro, Xiaomi's best, the Mi 10 Ultra. It was a bit of an ask here, but I think it did really well. And if you did like this camera comparison, do subscribe for more. And I have the iPhone 12 Pro arriving this week, so there's going to be plenty more comparisons on the channel, so do subscribe for those up and coming videos.